Hello YouTube, Flightsimguy here. This time I'm in JFK, just for some ambiance, with the Leonardo Maddog MD-80, and today we're going to be talking about the propulsion systems for this terrific aircraft. Alright, let's talk about the engines real quick. This aircraft is powered by two Pratt & Whitney JT8D engines, which have a normal takeoff thrust rating of 20,000 pounds and a maximum takeoff thrust rating of 20,850 pounds. Okay, so what that really means is it's gonna roll if you start the engine and you don't have the parking brake. Okay, so I had the engines running and the parking brake must have slipped. What this boils down to is if you compare the MD-80 to the 737, I mean, they're competitors, so to speak, with regards to how many passengers they carry and their range. The truth of the fact is the 737 will beat this plane into the ground with regards to engine thrust. The Boeing 737, the next generation NGX aircraft, those engines are a lot more powerful than this one. Not saying this is not a faster plane, but as far as power plants go, the 737 simply wins. Starting system is pneumatic. You have to use bleed air from your APU, and you need to make sure that your pneumatic crossfeed valves, that's these two, are open. The engines are running. I already started the aircraft. Let's go ahead and close them. Now we're talking about the propulsion system. What's there to say, really? I mean, the engine's running, you got your thrusters here, you mash them forward, the engines go, blah blah this, blah blah that. That's the basics. A few other items. You have your igniters. This is kind of like in the Boeing, you have system 1, system 2, and both. It's kind of sort of the same thing here. Once you've started the engines, you can go ahead and turn these off. Definitely put them in in continuous if you're flying through bad weather. I think usually procedures say that you alternate the various igniter systems when you're flying. On one day you use system A, on another day you use system B. Me, I always set it to both because it's just foolproof. That's getting your engine started. Here are your fuel pumps. You need to have your fuel pumps on to start the engines. In theory, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and turn off your fuel pumps after you start them, but you should keep them on. Once the engines are running, it uses a mechanically driven fuel pumps to feed the engines. So if you wanted to, you could turn them off, but for the most part, you want to keep your fuel pumps on. The Maddog, like most other commercial airlines, has thrust reversers. You know how this works. Pull these back, and let me go ahead and deploy one to show you what it looks like. Go on the outside, deploy the thrust reversers. Those things come around, and you keep mashing F2, and it's rolling again. You deploy the thrust reversers, these things come out, and that is what slows you down. When you're using the thrust reversers in the Maddog, what you want to do is push the nose down, because if you look at this aircraft, look how far back the wings are, and the engines add additional weight. So once you land and you mash the thrust reversers, the nose is going to want to come up. Okay, the nose is going to want to come up. So you want to push this down. If you ever watch those videos on YouTube, those pilots of corporate jets, any sort of high T-tail, the ERJ, the CRJ, once they land and they engage the thrust reversers, they push this down to keep the nose on the ground. So that's a good habit you want to get in. The Maddog has something called the automatic reserve thrust system installed. All that means is once you're taking off, if you have an engine failure, the system will automatically apply full maximum thrust to the remaining engine. That way you can continue with your climb out if you lose an engine while taking off. Alright, next let's talk about this button right here. That's called your engine sync. You want to turn that on while you're in cruise, and I suppose what it does is it for noise abatement purposes or for passenger comfort, it synchronizes the engines. How it works is when it's off, engine synchronization is disabled. When it's on EPR, the left engine provides EPR value, and then that's synchronized with the right engine. If you have N1, the left engine N1 RPM is matched to the right engine N1 RPM, and if you have N2, the left engine N2 RPM is matched to the right engine N2 RPM. If you've ever flown turboprop aircraft or twin turboprop, you'll see something called propeller sync. It's kind of sort of the same thing. You use that for passenger comfort so they don't get all freaked out with all the noise of mis-synchronized engines. What else is there to say? Here are your fuel cutoff valves. Go ahead and bring these down. If you want to turn off the engine, that's the only way you're going to shut them off. And this is very important. I had to create a special key for this. This is your fuel crossfeed. You're not going to see it from over here. It's kind of hidden behind this thing. So I had to go ahead and create a key to get to it. And that allows you to draw fuel from the opposite tank. The right tank draws fuel from the right. The right engine draws fuel from the right tank. The left engine draws fuel from the left tank. If you have an imbalance, you can go ahead and use this. Alright, so all the stuff that we just talked about, that's pretty much common knowledge. You know, nothing new, nothing interesting. What we do need to spend some time to talk about is the thrust reduction controls. Now, like most commercial jet aircraft, the Maddog is deliberately overpowered. The reason for that is FAA regulations say that the aircraft must be able to fly out on one engine should you lose another engine. Well, that makes these jet engines extremely powerful, and what that means is you don't need to mash the throttles forward and use full power to take off. When you do that, you're using more power than you really need, you're burning and wasting fuel, and you're increasing wear and tear on the engines. As a result, the Maddog does something called flex, which allows you to modulate the power coming from the engines and use just enough power to take off when it's time to take off, so that you save on fuel and you save on wear and tear. With Boeing aircraft, it's called thrust derate. With every other aircraft, such as the Maddog and Airbus and Embraer jets, it's called flex or flex takeoff. All right. So how you do that in the Maddog? All right. So this thing right here, I think it's called a thrust reduction computer. Let me double check. All right. So this is called the thrust rating panel. All right. A couple of items we need to go over here. Here are your N1. Here's your exhaust gas temperature in Celsius. Here's your N2. Here you can manually screw with the EPR.
Take off thrust set. Take off thrust set. Take off thrust set.
See? You can manually screw with the EPR. This here is the EPR. EPR stands for engine pressure ratio. You can do it over here for this engine. You can do it over here for this engine. Fuel flow used. Click on this and it will tell you how much fuel you've used. You can go ahead and reset it. Click in the fuel reset. And as you can see, my fuel flow used is back to 0. So you can use this stuff to reset your fuel burn. Or reset how much it's calculating or keeping track of your fuel burn. We all know what EGT, N1, and N2 is. Alright? This here is EPR, engine pressure ratio. All this means is this is a method of measuring engine power. That's all that means. Alright? And right now we are at EPR 1.03 in both engines. This is your thrust rating panel. Alright, so if you click on each of these, what's going to happen is it changes your EPR number. See? Now, I'm not doing a good job of that because I'm on the ground. But every time you click this, it changes the number. Okay? This is go around. This is takeoff flex. This is takeoff. This is maximum cruise thrust. And as you can see, each time I click this, it's changing this number. And this is climb. And this is cruise. So let's say you click takeoff. It has an EPR limit of 1.92. What that means is when you mash the throttle forward to take off, you need to keep an eye on this little thing right here and make it sure that it goes all the way up to the limit. And that's your takeoff power set. If you mash the throttles any further, it's gonna go beyond the EPR limit. Your engines won't explode. You're gonna start wearing them out faster. But what's gonna happen is all these lights are gonna start flashing at you. And what that means is you've exceeded the recommended EPR rating for that particular phase of flight. Alright, so that's takeoff. This is climb. This is cruise. And this is maximum continuous thrust. You use this for takeoff or standard takeoff. If your runways are wet, you want to use a standard takeoff. Takeoff flex if you want to save on gas and save on energy. Make sure you have a long enough runway. Go around, climb, and cruise. Alright? Now, here is the tricky part. How you do flex is you enter a higher than ambient assumed temperature. So right now, I'm not exactly sure what the temperature is outside. Let's say it is, I don't know, 25 degrees Celsius. Now, to set your flex temperature, or the assumed temperature you want to enter into the thrust reduction control panel, so that you're not using the maximum power available from the engines to take off. You want to save on wear and tear. You want to save on gas. What you do is you enter an assumed temperature here. Takeoff flex. Click on this. Has to be takeoff flex. Takeoff flex. Because here's where you want to use it. And then here you can change your assumed temperature. Now, how is this temperature computed? To be totally honest, I haven't the foggiest clue. Shift 1, usually this sheet right here tells you all the information that you need, your V speeds, runway conditions, outside ambient temperature, all your takeoff weight, and all that kind of stuff. But as you can see, it leaves thing here for assumed temperature. I honestly don't know how you compute that. I'm guessing, ideally, there would be performance tables that would have this data, but it's not in any of the Maddog documentation. It may be in the other Maddog documentation that I've downloaded from Delta and Continental. I just haven't found it yet. But the point is, there needs to be a computed assumed temperature that you enter here so that you can do a takeoff flex. Having said that, takeoff flex is purely economics for airlines to save on gas and to save on engine wear and tear. We're simmers. I know I don't concern myself with any of that stuff. But if you want to keep it real, that's how you do that. And as I said, for takeoff, you're going to have a limit. Go around, you're going to have a limit. Maximum continuous thrust, you're going to have a limit. Climb, you're going to have a limit. Cruise, you're going to have a limit. Whenever you're flying, you should be making really, really tiny changes to the throttles. Ideally, you'd be using your auto throttle. Okay? So you will know if you go past the maximum EPR because these things will start flashing and beeping at you. And that's it. That's all I have to say about the propulsion system for the MD-80. Hope you found this video useful. My name is Flightsimguy. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.